So I thought, I had a brainstorm. I thought I'd go ahead and go to the truck stop and get some CB stuff because I'm still not picking up a whole lot with this radio. I do go outside, except it's brutal cold, and so I wasn't able to stay out there a little bit, but just a little bit. I was able to pick up very little in the time I did it off the antenna that came with it. I'm getting a little better understanding of these antennas. So you have three things to factor when you have an antenna. You either compromise by size, you compromise by efficiency, or you compromise by bandwidth. And I didn't even realize the whole bandwidth thing. So I went ahead and I bought this because you could tune it anywhere between 26 and 30 megahertz. So I thought I could use this for 10 meter. I'm going to take it back. I found out that the bandwidth on it is only like 200 kilohertz, which is very narrow. I was able to pick up one person talking on CB, and then not very clear. Had it outside, so I'm a little confused about why it didn't do better than even that on the CB channels, but it didn't. And we're right by a truck stop, so that was a little weird. I don't know. I haven't been on CB in 40 years, so I don't remember. So yeah, I'm going to be taking that back. Also, just to clarify, because this added a little confusion, the name of the connector that they have on the cable, on the antenna, is a different name than the end that you plug it into on the receiver. Like on the front, it's called a BNC, and it's called a BNC. Anyway, yeah, the typical CB antenna end is the right end that you would use to connect to the back of your 817ND. In case you go to look at the numbers and you say, wait, the cable says it's different than the back of the radio. Not sure why they use two completely different names to identify the same kind of plug that goes together. I'm not sure why they don't call them the same name and then you have a male and female version. They don't do that. They're just two different names. So that was a little confusing. I did pick this up. We're going to Des Moines today. And so this has I'm going to keep this. This is fused. It says it's fused. And then it has the positive and negative lead. And so I'm going to take that along with this to use in my car. So I still don't have an antenna, but I'll be in Des Moines, so maybe I'll be able to scan and pick up something while I'm moving along. But yeah, just so you know, out of the box, if you buy this radio because you think, oh, this is cool, it comes with an antenna, it comes with everything I need to use, it's not really going to pick up anything with that antenna. Even though it's better than the antennas that come with the Bofangs, you're not going to pick up anything. So I'm so glad I went with this over the 857 because the 857 you'd have to have a massive solar panel if you wanted to run it on solar. This radio I could actually run off solar pretty easily, and so that was the other reason I decided to go with the smaller radio. You can't just take an 857D and kick it down to 5 watts and use the same amount of power. The 857D uses twice as much amperage as the 17ND at 5 watts. You can't run it off solar. Unless you have a huge panel, and then you're not going to just carry that with you. You get a decent foldable panel and power the 817ND, and so that's why I went with the 817, not just because it had an antenna that came with it. So I'm still good with that. I'm not concerned about the fact that I've only got 5 watts. If I can't hear them, I couldn't respond to them anyway, and at this point, I can't hear nothing. But when you're shopping for your ham stuff and this is your first time, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the radio. think the radio is just fine. I think the antenna thing is, I mean, you know that you need a decent antenna, but until you actually start doing it, you don't realize how much you need a decent antenna just to do some of the simplest things. So anyway, I'm taking this CB antenna back. I do think a CB antenna would work. I do think I want to get a CB antenna and use for 10 meter, but probably something much more substantial, because this one did not cut it. So be aware of that. If you go short, you're going to either compromise in efficiency or you're going to compromise in bandwidth. And this thing is just too narrow at 200. I only picked up one channel. I didn't tune it, but I was just trying to receive. It didn't receive anything. You'd have to have it right at the channels you want to listen to, and that would be it. So here's what I did. This is the thing I bought for $10 from the truck stop. And so I'm all set to use this when we go to Des Moines today. And I got the ferret choke, or whatever they call it. I got the magnet on the end here, which they say in the manual is to prevent interference with 70 centimeter, but it's not necessarily required. I'm like, well, you might as well just put it on, because it's not going to hurt anything to have it on, I don't think. So that's all set. I just went to a truck stop, and they had a 2 meter antenna there. So I bought a half wavelength, 2 meter Browning model BR 159, 133 to 180 megahertz with no ground plane, 28 megahertz bandwidth. Okay, so it's a 1/2 wave, 28 megahertz bandwidth. I am getting nothing. What the heck? Okay, I know I don't know all this antenna stuff yet, but I mean, seriously, I've got a radio, put the 2 meters with a half-wave antenna sticking on the top of my thing in downtown Des Moines. I've got repeater book up here, so I've got repeater book, and having it show me where the 2 meters are, and nothing. Is it really that quiet? I mean, is there really no one transmitting? This thing has been scanning forever. I picked up one channel, and it sounded like dispatch. It was on one of the police frequencies, so you can't transmit on that. But I don't know how far that was away from anything. But literally, that's it. That is literally it. Nothing. I mean, I've turned my squelch all the way down. I mean, so that I can hear static. Do I have something set wrong on the radio? What is going on? I've checked the, there's this little thing where you can offset it to make sure, and it's supposedly set on the signal right where it's supposed to be. I'm completely perplexed at this point. Alright, so I think it's just persistence. I am actually getting stuff off the rubber duck. I don't hear much difference between the rubber duck and the big antenna I have outside. Right now I'm connected to the Grimes repeater off the rubber duck. That repeater is 4.3 miles away. You can hear it in the background. And I don't get much difference between that and when I hook it up to the external antenna. I'm going to switch over. Oh, I guess it's a little clearer. I'm sure it's got a bigger benefit, but it's got to be better. Anyway, so I'm able to get Grimes. So the radio is working, and the rubber duck antenna is working. I was able to get some frequencies. The biggest thing is you'll want to make sure that you put these things in memory. You just have to be patient. And it's kind of like fishing. Right, Bruce?
Yeah.
Kind of like fishing?
Yeah.
So I'm feeling better now that I actually, by the way, that half wave, I'm actually able to pick up quite a bit, even on 70 centimeter with that half wave 2 meter. It shows the SWR a little high, but I think I could actually use that to transmit as well. But I did try doing a call out on one of the repeaters earlier, and no one responded. Again, right now, I've just been focusing on trying to be heard. I'm going to try again tonight. There's the fellow in Newton that I tried a simplex conversation with. I couldn't even hear him. He couldn't hear me. So I'm going to try again tonight with this antenna outside my house and see how it does. But the rubber duck is working. So yeah, you just need to be patient. If you live in an area where there's a lot of traffic, that'll help. But getting closer. After you get your ham license and you're going to get your radio, don't plan to do it in the wintertime unless you got good climate. Unless you live in a bigger area where you have a lot of signals going on. Pretty much so far all I've been able to get in Iowa where I live is one channel off a repeater with the antenna that's on it. You see that I bought that antenna that I showed you for the top of my car. But at the day we bought it, we were in Grandpa's Jeep, which is actually more suited for it than my Mitsubishi. I guess my point is, regardless of what radio you buy, if you're buying it in the wintertime, be prepared for some disappointment because you're going to want to put antennas up. And I will tell you, I don't even want to go and mess around with trying to figure out how to route this mag mount antenna on my Mitsubishi when it's 1 degree weather outside. I'm sitting in my house right now, freezing. The point is, be prepared not to get a lot of signals if you're in a smaller area and you're going to need an external antenna and it's in the winter time and you're not going to want to go outside in 1 degree weather and mess around with trying to put up antennas. If you're serious about this, the little handheld antenna on it is not really going to get you very far.